So during our last meeting, we talked about me creating a dummy app for us to see how it looks like, how it potentially looks like when we eventually create this platform that we're creating for our project. So what I've done so far in the past few days is I've created a dummy app itself, which I've called Portalearn. So this basically is the app that I'm presenting today. So what I've done at this moment is to record the screen capture of the app from the iPad's screen resolution, which is a bit bigger than an iPhone. But essentially what I'll be doing after recording this, I will be recording also how the interface looks like on the iPhone itself. So the app itself is essentially empty. It has only a few pages that has considerable content. Based on the content that we've agreed on, the app itself is divided into 5 sub-menu items: news, pedagogy, skills, health, and settings, where the majority of the content will be in pedagogy and skills. So I've taken the liberty of creating a news item in this app itself, so where announcements and updates can be shared with the users. Now the thing about this platform is that currently I'm running this as an online app where while we are trying to figure out on how to create an offline platform. So this is the news part, the news section of the app, where we can actually provide announcements or updates on what they call this on the app and on the project itself. Then we've got the pedagogy, where I've listed out the content that we've agreed on through our email, things like managing resources, assessing learners, these how-tos, the pedagogical side of the teacher training. And like I said, there is currently no content in these links. And then we've got the skills. I will come back to this after going through all the other parts of the app itself. This is where I'm torn between either using synchronous chat or a forum board. It's basically the idea is to have a technical support for technical issues with the app, and also for questions that arise in terms of the project, in terms of how of the pedagogical skills, of the language skills that have not been covered. But I'm a bit concerned with the bandwidth in terms of using a forum board, and also because it takes a lot of what I call what we when we're in programming, we create these MySQL databases, and databases tend to become very large very quick. So we've got two options there: either have an asynchronous chat, or what we have here is a forum board. Like it works the same exactly like Blackboard forums or Moodle forums. So that we've got a community of people, members, registered members, asking each other for help, assistance. So yeah, so that's something that you can keep in mind at the moment. Now this is how it looks like on the iPad. I will record using the iPad on how it looks like on the iPhone, which has a smaller real estate, much smaller real estate. So one big concern that we have is to create content that can fit into the space that the device provides the users. Let's go on to look at one of the units that Heber has prepared. So I've digitized the unit. There are certain issues that come up when I created all these boxes, all these parts of the unit. We've got the objectives, that the objectives just display text information. There's no problem in terms of the app presenting text information. It's really straightforward. And then number 2 is where it gets quite interactive, where users are meant to actually rank, not just rank, order these 4 parts of listening processes, what Heber has done in her documentation. So I've used H5P here, and you can actually drag and drop these the words into these boxes, and it provides feedback as well. So this particular kind of exercise grades the users and provides them with feedback, because the answers, the options there are objective. They are not typed by them, but they're provided by us. Things that are similar to this would be multiple choices, and to a certain extent fill in the blanks or close passages that we can use. Box number 3 again is just a text display of information. But when it comes to box number 4, this is where it's a bit of an issue in terms of me creating interaction. Now there is no such interactivity when it comes to answering short sentences, particularly when it's subjective, and also when it's a personal opinion, where opinions are diverse, and you don't have an answer key that is able to grade something that won't be typed in verbatim. So we do have a challenge in terms of creating interactivity, asking the users to provide subjective answers or short answers, because we do have problems of spelling as well and grammar. So those kind of thing comes to mind. So when it comes to these kinds of activities, I'm not really sure what we can do with it. So I hope that you have opinions, you have ideas on how to go about presenting these kinds of exercises correctly. Again, these are empty boxes. Come back to this number 4. These are empty boxes where users can actually type their answers. The answer, let's see, you can just type this. The answer is in the... So you can users can type in their feedback, but as you can see here, there is no submit button or button that to record or to print. It might be an idea that this is something that they can use to record. Certainly the easiest way is to screen capture, to actually screen capture through your phones and keep that as a record of the answers. Then the more technical part of creating something like this is for me to create a submit button where it prints for them or it saves in your Android device, because you won't be able to do something like that with an Apple device. What I've encountered in online courses in the past is that when it comes to subjective answers, there's a submission button where the answers are sent by email to the administrator or to the moderator, and they in turn will reply by email. This gets pulled out of the app and gets into email correspondences, so I'm not really sure if we are going to go with that route. In terms of the technological aspect of it, of how to create something that would enable them to reflect on their feedback and responses, I'm yet to figure out something that is useful and also that is doable in terms of having an app that has low bandwidth. Activity number 5 here again, Heba has created an activity that prompts the users to rank them in terms of difficulty. Again, this particular kind of activity, when you submit them using a button, the submission button, what do we want? Do we want to grade, to self-assess their subjective opinions? Because answers would range according to the individual's concern. And then we also have something like when we inquire something that's quite subjective, so where they type perhaps a paragraph or two of their opinions. I'm going to type a few bits here. Again, when we have a submit button to accompany these exercises, what do we want to get from that submission? Are we going to is it going to self-assess their opinions, their reflection, which we don't have? There is limitation in terms of technology, the human-computer interaction. Will the app be a tool to help them archive their thoughts? Will the app help them to become a tool where their responses get sent to us, and then we communicate from our own understanding and assessment of what will be the best approach for them to actually improve their skills? Last bit is box number 6. Again, this is a text, the presentation of text information, but here we are asking them to do something, to actually perform something based on this guide that we have. Now this brings them outside of the app and actually do practical work inside of the classroom. So what we have here is that the app becomes an electronic book that they carry around there in the class to guide them on what to observe and what to do. There's a potential for an application like this to become just that, a guidebook that they can bring around and that they can use to search for keywords and for items that are buried in all this mass content that we're going to present them. It can serve that purpose. So if you have any opinions on what you have seen so far, on how the app that I've created works, on how to improve on it, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of room for improvement. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how it works, how it looks like on an iPhone. So this is basically the iPhone version of the app itself. Sorry, I'm struggling on with holding the iPad with one hand and trying to operate the iPhone with another. So it looks basically similar, the content is similar to the iPad. It has the same menu items, news, pedagogy, skills, help and settings. Again, like I said, the real phone. So we have to consider what we're trying to present, the text information and also the interactivity. Let's move on exactly to where we left off, which is the listening skills, how to teach listening. So this is how it looks like on an iPhone. Now mine is an iPhone 4S, so this is quite a small iPhone compared to its successors, the 6 and 7s, and also the Samsungs and the HTCs that we have now. So this is basically the same content that we have in the iPad version. You're able to again interact with the activities and the same kind of text being presented, the same kind of features. You can type in, as you can see here, when it comes to real estate, the iPhone is quite limited. I mean, smartphones are quite limited. When the keyboard comes up, it takes one-third to half of the screen itself. So we need to consider the content that we display, we present, and the activities that are involved in our app. So again, like as you can see here, the content of the table from inside this app, it was fine in the iPad, but when it comes to iPhone, sometimes these kinds of displays, they don't respond well. They do not truncate to the size of the system, particularly when you're dealing with HTML5 and H5P. H5P is at the moment is known for not being responsive due to it working within a vessel or within a frame, a shell, as opposed to actually being part of being the primary platform itself. So yeah, that's it. That's how it looks like on the iPhone. It works on the iPhone, it works on the iPad, but again, like I said, the issues that I have raised earlier, these are to do with the interactivity, certain interactions, for example, asking them subjective answers and responses and opinions are quite challenging to do in terms of with an app, because of the human-computer interaction limitations. The answers are diverse. The only ways that we can actually implement those kinds of communication and interaction is, for example, having them print their responses, or having them archive them in their devices, or using what they've typed into the app itself as a guidance for them in the classroom. Another concern is the size of the screen, the real estate. So on the iPhone, we do have that challenge of keeping everything legible and doable. For example, once I type a box for me to interact, the keyboard just takes a lot of space. So that kind of thing is something that we might want to consider. Again, with an app that we're trying to create, we need to figure out what's the objective of creating one. Are we creating a guidebook that just presents them with information textually, and then with certain interaction, limited interaction, for example, cross passages, multiple choices, drag and drop? So that kind of technology for me is doable. So yeah, so if you have any opinions, any suggestions, I'm all ears. I'm excited to work on this, but it's just that I'm trying to figure out where our scope is and where our boundaries are.